This is Hope in Hard Places, a podcast about real-life struggles and an ever-present God. When life gets hard, expect God to show up. I'm your host, Vicki Spencer, and I'm so happy you're here. I've experienced God's goodness during some of the toughest seasons of life. And though it may have felt really bad, God was always up to something really good. If you're in a hard place, don't lose hope. Look up and listen in. Welcome back to Hope in Hard Places. As we continue our series on fear, I want to ask you a question. Do you believe God has a plan for your profession? Maybe that sounds like an odd question, but I think it's an important one. Most believers would agree God has a plan for their life, but we may not always think of it in terms of our career path. And yet, it is all part of the bigger plan. I'm not saying we don't have a part in choosing our vocation or the employer that we work for. But when we commit those decisions to God, He will guide us in the career path that aligns with His plan and purposes for our life. If you're wondering why the Creator of the universe would care about the work we do, I'd like to take a moment to speak to that. The Bible talks about how much God thinks about you and I. We are not unknown or insignificant to Him. In Psalm 139, verses 13 and 14, it says, "How precious are your thoughts about me, O God. They cannot be numbered. I can't even count them. They outnumber the grains of sand." That kind of blows my mind. Like, why would God think about me? And yet He does. A lot. So if we dare think God doesn't care about something as significant as our career, just look at the sand on the seashore to get a glimpse of how much He cares for us. In my own career, I've seen God show up in so many different ways that taught me to trust Him. Sometimes it was about my personal or spiritual growth, and other times it was about shining my light to those He had placed around me. But each and every time there was something He wanted me to glean from it. The workplace is a diverse place full of people who may or may not know the Lord. And for those who don't, we might be the way they encountered Jesus. What does our witness in the workplace look like? If a coworker or boss doesn't know Christ, would they be drawn to Him through the way we live and work? That might be a bit convicting, but the truth is, we are there for such a time as this. And what our life says to others matters. If we're slacking on the job or grumbling a lot, and our coworkers are hearing us talk about Jesus, what does that say to them? As believers, God calls us to live up to a higher standard, His standard. And that includes our work. In Colossians 3, verse 23 and 24, it says, "Whatever you do, work at it with all of your heart, as working for the Lord, not for human masters, since you know that you will receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward. It is the Lord Christ you are serving." Did you hear that last part? Maybe it's easy to gloss over, but God is reminding us that we work for Him, regardless of who our employer is. And He wants us to give our very best, not just when it suits us or when our boss is watching, but at all times. That includes when we feel mistreated, overlooked, or overworked. We work for the Lord, and He promises a reward to those who entrust Him with their career and work at it with all of their heart. So we see in these verses that God does care about our profession and the choices that we make. So what's my point in sharing all of this? I'm glad you asked. There are times when fear will seep into our career and cause us to lose sight of God's plan for it all. And I want to encourage you today to take a step back and consider what God might be doing through your own difficult situation. His purposes may be much different than the present affliction it's causing you. Fear can rise through many different work situations. It might come through a difficult project or a task you've been given that feels intimidating or beyond the scope of your experience. And yet, you're expected to step up. You've convinced yourself that you can't do it, and the very thought of it makes you sick to your stomach. Fear has a hold on you, and you don't know what to do or how to move forward. It might come as a result of a supervisor who's critical of your work and seems to have it out for you. Nothing you do is good enough. And they've let you know in no uncertain terms that things aren't looking good for you. And now you're not just feeling the heat of a harsh boss. You're afraid you might actually lose your job as well. Or it might come through news of a company restructuring or downsizing. Although you've always done a great job, suddenly there's a sense of uneasiness about whether you'll be able to even keep your job. And to make matters worse, you're older in your career and higher on the pay scale, making you a prime target. Then there's the fear of getting hired by another employer at your age and level, when it might be more advantageous to go with someone younger for multiple reasons. Now you're battling the fear of what will happen with the restructuring, compounded by the fear of what will happen afterwards. Here's the thing about fear. It's completely debilitating, and it does nothing positive for you and I. It only creates panic in our hearts and a lack of peace about what God has for us. Let's look at a few examples in the Bible to gain a better perspective. When it comes to the feeling of being inadequate or not skilled enough, I immediately think of Moses. God said, I want you to go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt. And Moses counters his request with several questions, starting with, who am I that I should do this? He felt incapable for the task. And God's response was not a list of qualifications that Moses had to do the job. Nope, it was this: I will be with you. That's the key right there. Not our ability to do the thing that's in front of us, but God's ability working through us. He's with us. And we need to remember that when fear tries to undermine what God is trying to do through us. Sure, we might have to do some extra work to perform the task or project, and that's being a good steward of our job. But ultimately, He'll help us do it. I love Exodus chapter 4, verses 10 through 13. We get a real glimpse into the insecurity of Moses and the all-sufficiency of the great I Am. Here's what it says. Moses said to the Lord, pardon your servant, Lord. I have never been eloquent, neither in the past nor since you have spoken to your servant. I am slow of speech and tongue. The Lord said to him, who gave human beings their mouth? Who makes them deaf or mute? Who gives them sight or makes them blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now go. I'll help you speak, and I will teach you what to say. But Moses said, pardon your servant, Lord. Please send someone else. I can't help but laugh. I mean, here's this giant in the faith telling the Lord, I can't speak for you. It's not my thing. And God's like, who gave humans their mouth? He does. Then he promises to help him speak and even tell Moses what to say. And Moses' response is, please send someone else. Seriously, Moses? God just said he will help you and give you the words, but he still cowers to his fear and insecurities. That's really funny when you consider the sequence of the conversation and who it is that's asking him to step up. And yet, we do the same thing. Our fears can get the best of us, but God is with us. He will help us. We just need to be disciplined to do our part and let him get the glory. What about that difficult supervisor? Maybe they're making every workday miserable, and you're fearful that it will prevent your progress, or worse, lead to a loss of employment. Let me go back to something the Lord said to Moses. He reminded him that he was the one who gave humans their mouths. Isn't he also the one who gave us our jobs and put that wonderful boss over us? What might God be doing through that situation? What character quality might he be seeking to develop in us? I'm not saying mistreatment is good, but God can use unfair situations to grow our faith and build our character and shine the light of Christ into their life. If we're willing to bear the weight of that situation and work hard despite the pressure and disappointment, God can turn it around for his purpose and glory. I think of Joseph. He's one of my favorite people in the Bible. He didn't do anything wrong other than share a dream with his family, which was actually prophetic, but appeared to be boasting. And it led to all sorts of terrible circumstances. First, he's thrown into a pit by his brothers, then sold as a slave to Potiphar, then lied about by Potiphar's seducing wife, and thrown in prison, then forgotten about by those he helped in prison, and left there. But God. It looked like things were going from bad to worse. But God had a plan all along, and Joseph continued to trust God and serve him wholeheartedly wherever he was. His work ethic earned him favor and trust in all situations. But he still had to trudge through it, trusting that God was with him. Everything looked bad until the day God flipped the situation and elevated him to second in command over all Egypt. He could have been sulking and complaining through the sequence of unjust circumstances, but he didn't. He stayed close to God and was used by him through it all. And that's why the promotion came. His character was tested, his faith was tried, but he trusted God who was able to deliver him. And he did. You see, Joseph had to be in that prison to interpret some dreams through God's wisdom that would later be recounted to Pharaoh. This led to Pharaoh asking Joseph to interpret his dream about a famine in the land. And that led to him seeing that the hand of God was upon Joseph. And just like that, he went from the prison to the palace, second in charge, only to Pharaoh. It's an awesome example of how awful circumstances may be the perfect setup for God to move. Whatever you may be facing in your career, God is able to work it for good. Not skilled enough? That's okay. God will help you. A critical or overbearing supervisor? Don't let it steal your joy. Determined to work hard and let your light shine. Then trust God to show up for you. Fear of a job loss? Honor God with the job you have and trust Him to work behind the scenes to accomplish His good purpose. And know that if that door shuts, God's up to something good. I'm sure it didn't feel that way to Joseph, but he remained faithful, and look where that led. I just want to leave you with one final scripture. In Proverbs 22, verse 29, it says, "Do you see someone skilled in their work? They will serve before kings. They will not serve before officials of low rank." When we work with integrity and honor God with our skills, He is able to elevate us to places we never could have imagined. So be encouraged, friend. If you've been battling fear in your career, consider the complete sufficiency of Christ to help you with whatever you're facing. God is bigger than our fears. He is over it all. And if we trust Him with it, He will use it in a way that builds our faith and forges our character. Well, that concludes today's episode. Be sure to join me again next week as we continue our series on fear and look at God's protective hand upon us. Have a great week. If you enjoyed this podcast, help me spread hope to others by sharing it with a friend. And don't forget to like and follow me for future episodes. Be sure to visit hopeinhardplaces.com and enter your contact info for the latest updates and fun extras about the show. I'll see you again right here next week. Until then, may the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace as you trust in Him.